Commander Daniel Porter stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Vessel Horizon and watched the stars burn. Except they were not stars, they were ships. Human ships, his ships, and they were dying. The had come without warning. One moment the space around Earth was quiet and peaceful. The next moment 1,000 warships appeared from faster-than-light travel. Their hulls were black as night. Their weapons glowed with terrible purple light, and they had come to conquer. Porter gripped the railing in front of him so hard that his knuckles turned white. On the main screen, he could see the orbital defense platforms exploding one by one. These platforms had taken humanity 50 years to build. They destroyed them in less than an hour. Lieutenant Maria Santos looked up from her tactical station. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. "Commander, we have lost contact with Defense Grid Alpha through Delta. They are breaking through on all fronts." "How many ships do we have left?" Porter asked. He already knew the answer would be bad. Santos checked her screens. 12 vessels confirmed still operational, sir, out of the original fleet of 230. 12 ships. Porter felt sick to his stomach. Just 12 ships against 1,000 enemy warships. The numbers were impossible. The odds were beyond hopeless. A communications signal beeped on the console. Porter pressed the button to answer. "Porter, this is Admiral Cole on Luna Base." The voice of Admiral Cole came through the speakers. She was the head of Earth's Space Navy. Her voice sounded tired and broken. "I am ordering all surviving vessels to fall back to Rally Point 7. We cannot save Earth today." Porter wanted to argue. He wanted to say that they should fight to the last ship, but he looked at the faces of his crew around him, young men and women who had families on the planet below. They deserved a chance to live. They deserved a chance to fight another day. "Understood, Admiral," Porter said quietly. "Horizon is moving to Rally Point 7. He turned to his pilot. "Get us out of here, maximum speed." The Horizon turned away from Earth and began to accelerate. As the ship moved, Porter kept his eyes on the main screen. He watched the warships descend toward his home world. He watched as bright flashes of light appeared on the surface below. The bombardment had begun. Porter thought about his sister who lived in Chicago. He thought about his old friends from the academy in London. He thought about the millions of people who were dying right now while he ran away. His hands shook with rage and grief. "Why?" Maria Santos asked softly. She was standing beside him now, watching the same terrible images. "Why did the Galactic Assembly not help us? They promised protection to all member species." Porter laughed bitterly. "We have been members of the Assembly for only 20 years. We are young. We are weak. We have nothing they want. The elder races decided that helping us was not worth the trouble of fighting the..." He remembered the message that had arrived just hours before the attack. The Galactic Assembly regretted to inform humanity that they would not be providing military assistance. They cited political concerns. They spoke of diplomatic considerations. They used many fancy words to say one simple thing: humanity was on its own. The Horizon reached the edge of the battle zone. Behind them, Earth grew smaller on the screen. Porter could see the continents now, tiny patches of green and brown. He could see the clouds swirling over the oceans. It looked so peaceful from this distance, but he knew what was happening on the surface. "Commander," a voice called out. It was the communications officer. "I am picking up emergency broadcasts from the surface. Cities are falling everywhere. New York, Tokyo, Paris, Sydney. The ground forces are landing." "Can we pick up any survivors?" Porter asked. "Some evacuation ships made it out before the orbital blockade was complete," Santos reported. "Maybe a few 100,000 civilians in total, out of 12 billion people." A few 100,000. Porter closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, his face was hard like stone. "We will remember this day," he said to his crew. His voice was loud enough for everyone on the bridge to hear. "We will remember what the galaxy did to us. They abandoned us. They left us to die, but we are not dead. We are still here. And one day we will make them understand what that means." The Horizon jumped to faster than light speed. Earth disappeared from the screen, replaced by the strange, swirling colors of faster than light travel. Porter did not look away. He stood there, straight and tall, and made a silent promise to everyone he had left behind. 6 hours later, the Horizon arrived at Rally Point 7. It was a small moon orbiting a gas giant in a nearby star system. When Porter looked out the window, he saw 11 other ships waiting there. 11 ships and a scattered collection of civilian transports. This was all that remained of human civilization. Admiral Cole was waiting for them in the command center on the moon's surface. She looked like she had aged 10 years in a single day. Her uniform was wrinkled. Her eyes were red from crying. But when she spoke, her voice was strong. "Today we lost our home," she said to the assembled officers. "Today we lost our families and our friends. Today we lost almost everything. But we did not lose everything. We still have our ships. We still have our people. And we still have our will to fight." She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. "They think we are finished. The Galactic Assembly thinks we will simply fade away and die. They are wrong. Humanity has faced extinction before. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We have always found a way to survive, and we will survive this too." Porter listened to her words. He felt something stir in his chest. It was not hope exactly. It was something harder than hope. It was determination. It was the stubborn human refusal to give up even when giving up was the only sensible choice. Around him, he could see the same feeling spreading through the other officers. They had been 3 months had passed since the fall of Earth. 3 months of hiding, 3 months of grief, 3 months of slowly gathering the broken pieces of humanity back together. Commander Daniel Porter stood in the hangar bay of the asteroid base that had become humanity's new home. The base had no real name yet. People just called it the Rock. It was hidden deep inside an asteroid field in a system that they had never bothered to explore. For now, it was safe. For now, it was enough. Around him, mechanics worked on damaged ships. Engineers built new weapons from salvaged parts. Pilots trained in simulators for battles that were still to come. The base was alive with activity, and Porter felt proud of what they had built from nothing. Lieutenant Maria Santos walked up to him with a data pad in her hand. "Commander, we have completed the count. We now have 47 combat-ready vessels. Another 23 are being repaired, and we have located 3 more refugee fleets in the outer systems." Porter nodded. "Good, every ship matters, every person matters." He looked around the busy hangar. "How is morale?" Santos paused before answering. "Mixed. People are glad to be alive, but they miss Earth. They want revenge. Some of them want it too badly." Porter understood. He felt the same burning anger in his own heart, but anger without discipline was useless. It would only get people killed. A message came through his communicator. "Commander Porter, please report to Lab 7. Dr. Wright has something to show you." Porter and Santos made their way through the winding tunnels of the asteroid base. Lab 7 was deep inside the rock, protected by thick layers of stone and metal. It was where Dr. Samuel Wright conducted his most secret research. Wright was a thin man with messy gray hair and thick glasses. He had been one of Earth's leading weapons scientists. When the invasion happened, he had been on a research station near Mars. That accident of location had saved his life. "Commander, Lieutenant, thank you for coming," Wright said as they entered the lab. His eyes were bright with excitement. "I have made a breakthrough." He led them to a table where strange objects were laid out. Some looked like pieces of technology. Others looked like human nuclear devices, and some looked like nothing Porter had ever seen before. "They use a shield system that absorbs energy attacks," Wright explained. "Our lasers and plasma weapons are almost useless against them, but I have found a weakness." He picked up a small torpedo-shaped device. "I call it the Cascade Torpedo. It combines our nuclear technology with captured shield components. When it hits an enemy shield, it does not try to break through. Instead, it overloads the shield system from within. It turns their own technology against them." Porter stared at the device. "You are saying we can now hurt them?" Wright smiled. "I am saying we can now kill them." This was the news Porter had been waiting for. For 3 months, they had been hiding because they had no way to fight back. Now they had a weapon. Now they had a chance. Far away from the asteroid base, on the surface of occupied Earth, Sergeant Lucy crouched in the shadows of a ruined building. The city around her had once been Denver. Now it was a graveyard of broken concrete and twisted metal. Had been a soldier before the invasion. She had fought in small conflicts on Mars and the outer colonies, but nothing had prepared her for this. Nothing had prepared her for fighting on her own planet against aliens who had destroyed everything she loved. She was not alone. Around her, a dozen fighters waited in the darkness. They were ordinary people before the war, teachers, doctors, factory workers. Now they were resistance fighters. They had learned to kill soldiers. They had learned to disappear into the ruins before the enemy could find them. "The patrol is coming," whispered a young man named Peter. He was only 19 years old. His entire family had died in the first bombardment. Watched as 3 soldiers marched down the street. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. They carried weapons that could burn through steel. "Wait," whispered, "wait for my signal." They walked closer. They were confident. They believed that human resistance was nearly crushed. They did not expect an attack here in this quiet sector. Raised her hand and then brought it down sharply. Her fighters opened fire from all directions. They were caught completely by surprise. 2 of them fell immediately. The third tried to raise its weapon but shot it through the head before it could fire. "Move," she ordered. "Take their weapons and communication devices. We leave nothing behind." As her team worked quickly to strip the bodies, looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, she knew, human ships were hiding and planning. She had received coded messages from the fleet. They told her to keep fighting. They told her that help was coming. She did not know when that help would arrive. She did not know if she would live to see it. But she would keep fighting anyway. That was what humans did. They kept fighting even when winning seemed impossible. Back at the asteroid base, a secret meeting was taking place in Admiral Cole's office. The Admiral sat behind her desk, looking at a holographic image that floated in the air before her. The image showed a strange alien face. It was Nada. This creature was smaller, with blue skin and gentle eyes. "Counselor," Cole said, "your message was unexpected. The Galactic Assembly made their position very clear 3 months ago." An elder member of the Galactic Assembly bowed his head slightly. "The Assembly is not as united as it appears, Admiral. Many of us disagreed with the decision to abandon humanity. We were simply outvoted by those who feared the—" "Then why are you contacting us now?" "Because you have survived longer than anyone expected," replied. "And because I believe the Assembly made a terrible mistake. If they are allowed to destroy humanity without consequence, they will grow bolder. Other species will be next." Cole leaned forward. "What are you offering?" "Information," said. "They have weaknesses. Their supply lines are stretched thin. Their reinforcement fleet is scheduled to arrive at Earth in 6 months. If that fleet arrives, you will never retake your home world. But if it could be stopped somehow." He let the suggestion hang in the air. Cole understood. "You want us to attack the reinforcement fleet before it reaches Earth." "I want you to show the galaxy that they are not unbeatable," said. "Inspire enough species, and perhaps the Assembly will change its mind about helping you." After ended the communication, Cole called Porter into her office. She shared everything she had learned. 6 months had passed since the fall of Earth. The scattered survivors had grown into something more. They had become a force, a threat, a problem that they could no longer ignore. Captain Henry Brooks climbed into the cockpit of his fighter craft and began his pre-flight checks. He was 24 years old. Before the invasion, he had been a cargo pilot flying supply runs between Earth and Mars. Now he was one of humanity's best combat pilots. War had changed him. Loss had hardened him. His entire family had died on the first day. His parents in Seattle, his younger sister in Vancouver, his grandmother in a small town in Montana. He had watched the bombardment from orbit, helpless to do anything. That day, the old Henry Brooks had died too. The person who climbed into this fighter was someone new, someone cold, someone deadly. Commander Porter's voice came through the communication system. "All pilots, this is Horizon Command. Target convoy is entering the ambush zone. Remember your training. Strike fast and disappear before their main fleet can respond. Good hunting." Brooks activated his engines and shot forward into space. Around him, 20 other fighters followed in tight formation. This was not a major battle. It was a raid, a quick strike against a supply convoy. But every convoy they destroyed was food and fuel that would not reach the occupation forces on Earth. The convoy appeared on his scanner, 6 transport ships protected by 8 destroyers. They still did not understand how humans fought. They expected direct attacks. They expected enemies who followed predictable patterns. Humans did not follow patterns. "Squadron, break and attack," Brooks ordered. "Target the rear destroyer first, make them turn their formation." The fighters scattered like drops of water. They attacked from multiple directions at once. The destroyers tried to track them all but could not. Their weapons were powerful but slow. Human fighters were fast and unpredictable. Brooks dove toward the rear destroyer. He saw its weapons charging, preparing to fire. But he was already releasing his payload. Two missiles streaked away from his fighter. They struck the destroyer's shield, and for a moment nothing happened. Then the shield flickered and died. The cascade torpedoes that followed punched straight through the hull. The destroyer exploded in a ball of orange flame. "First kill confirmed," Brooks reported calmly, moving to second target. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, 3 destroyers were destroyed and all 6 transport ships were either burning or captured. Human losses were 2 fighters. Both pilots ejected safely and were picked up by rescue shuttles. As Brooks flew back toward the fleet, he felt nothing. No joy, no satisfaction, just a cold emptiness where his heart used to be. He killed because they had taken everything from him. He would keep killing them until he died or until every last one of them was gone from human space. Far across the galaxy, Ambassador Diana stood before a gathering of alien leaders. The meeting was secret, held on a neutral space station that belonged to no species. The aliens around her were representatives of a dozen minor species, species that the Galactic Assembly had ignored, species that feared they might be next. Had been a diplomat before the invasion. She had spent years learning alien languages and customs. She had believed in the power of words and negotiation. The invasion had shown her how naive she had been, but she had not abandoned her skills. She had simply found new ways to use them. "You have all heard what happened to Earth," she said, her voice calm and clear. "They attacked without warning. The Galactic Assembly did nothing. 12 billion humans died in the first month alone." The aliens shifted uncomfortably. They knew the story. They had been watching from the safety of their own worlds, grateful that they were not the targets. "But we did not die," continued. "We survived, we regrouped, we learned to fight back. In the last 3 months, we have destroyed over 100 vessels. We have proven that they are not invincible." A tall alien with feathered arms spoke up. "This is impressive, Ambassador, but what do you want from us? We cannot challenge thee openly. We are too weak." Smiled, "I do not ask you to fight, not yet. I ask only for supplies, fuel, medical equipment, safe harbors for our refugee ships. Small things that the will not notice." Another alien, this one covered in shimmering scales, leaned forward. "And in return, humanity remembers who helped us in our darkest hour. When we win this war, and we will win, you will have a powerful friend. And if they ever turn their eyes toward your worlds, you will not face them alone." The aliens whispered among themselves, waited patiently. She knew that fear was working in her favor. Every species in this room knew that could come for them next. Humanity was offering them insurance, a chance to be on the winning side. One by one, the aliens nodded their agreement, felt a small spark of triumph. This was not a military victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. Humanity was no longer alone. On occupied Earth, the resistance was growing bolder. Sergeant Lucy had united scattered groups of fighters into a single coordinated network. They called themselves the Last Guard. They struck patrols, sabotaged supply depots, and reminded the occupiers that Earth was not truly conquered. Tonight was meeting with her senior commanders in an underground bunker beneath what used to be Kansas City. Maps and reports covered the walls. The air smelled like sweat and gun oil. "Fleet Command has sent us new orders," announced. "Something big is coming. They did not tell me what, but they want us to prepare for a major operation in the next few months." A grizzled fighter named Carl spoke up. "What kind of operation?" "They want us to hit the hard on the same day as an attack from space," explained. "Coordinated strikes across every major city, distract their ground forces while our ships deal with their fleet." The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. After 6 months of hiding and small attacks, they were finally going to fight back for real. "Can we do it?" asked a young woman named. Looked at her. "We have to do it. This might be our only chance to take back our home." She straightened her shoulders. "Start gathering weapons, train every volunteer who can hold a gun, and pray that our fleet is as strong as they say." In orbit above a distant planet, Fleet Commander of the Dominion read the latest reports with growing concern. Was old for with dark gray skin covered in battle scars. He had conquered a dozen worlds in his long career. He had never lost a campaign. Until now. "Explain this to me," he said to his subordinate. How have these humans destroyed 100 of our vessels? They are a primitive species. They were defeated in a single day. The subordinate trembled with fear. The humans fight in ways we do not understand, Commander. They do not follow standard battle patterns. They attack and retreat before we can respond. They use weapons that bypass our shields. Crush the data pad in his 4 hands. Then we must adapt. Request reinforcements from the home fleet. I want 500 additional warships at Earth within 3 months. It will be done, Commander. 9 months after the fall of Earth. The day humanity had been waiting for had finally arrived. Commander Daniel Porter stood on the bridge of the horizon and looked at the fleet assembled before him. 47 warships, the largest human force gathered since the invasion. It was still a small number compared to but it was everything humanity had. The Crimson Nebula stretched across like a vast red wound in space. The nebula was dense with gas and dust that disrupted sensors and communications. Normal fleets avoided such places. That was exactly why Porter had chosen it for the ambush. All ships report ready, Commander, Lieutenant Maria Santos reported from her station. The reinforcement fleet will enter the nebula in approximately 2 hours. Porter nodded. According to Counselor's intelligence, the reinforcement fleet consisted of 120 warships. They were bringing enough firepower to crush the human resistance completely. If this fleet reached Earth, the war would be over. So Porter had decided to make sure it never reached Earth. He activated the fleet-wide communication channel. All hands, this is Commander Porter. Today we face the greatest battle of our lives. The enemy outnumbers us nearly 3-1. Their ships are larger and their weapons are more powerful. By all logic, we should not be able to win. He paused and looked around at his crew. They were scared. They were determined. They were ready. But we are not here because of logic. We are here because they took our home. They killed our families. They thought they could destroy us completely. They were wrong. Today we proved just how wrong they were. Across the fleet, crew members listened to his words. Pilots climbed into their fighters. Gunners powered up their weapons. Engineers prepared damage control teams. Everyone knew that many of them would not survive the coming battle. But they also knew that running was not an option. The wait was the hardest part. 2 hours felt like 2 years. Porter used the time to review the battle plan one more time. The nebula would hide them until they were deep inside. Then they would attack from all sides at once. Confusion would be their greatest weapon. Finally, the sensors detected the first ships entering the nebula. Contact, Santos announced. Enemy fleet confirmed, 118 warships. They are advancing in standard formation. Porter smiled grimly. Standard formation. They were predictable. They always did things the same way because it had always worked before. That predictability would be their downfall. All ships hold position, Porter ordered. Let them come deeper into the nebula. The minutes crawled by. The fleet moved further into the nebula, their sensors struggling against the interference. They had no idea that 47 human ships were waiting in the clouds of gas around them. When they were exactly where Porter wanted them, he gave the order. All ships attack. The nebula exploded with weapons fire. Human ships appeared from every direction, their weapons already blazing. Cascade torpedoes struck shields and overloaded them. Missiles and lasers followed, tearing into exposed hulls. They were caught completely off guard. Their formation broke apart as captains tried to respond to attacks from all sides. The nebula interference made coordination impossible. Each ship was fighting alone. Captain Henry Brooks led his fighter squadron straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. "Focus on the destroyers," he ordered. "Take out their escorts and leave the big ships for our cruisers." His fighters danced between the massive warships, moving too fast to be tracked. They struck and disappeared into the red clouds before the enemy could fire back. One by one, destroyers began to fall. On the horizon, Santos coordinated the entire battle. Her fingers flew across her console as she directed ships, called out enemy positions, and adjusted tactics in real time. They could not adapt fast enough. Every time they tried to reform their lines, she had already anticipated their move. "Commander, the flagship is trying to escape the nebula," Santos reported. "If they get clear, they can call for help." Porter made a quick decision. "All ships focus fire on the flagship. We cannot let them escape." 30 human ships turned their weapons on the massive command vessel. The ship's shields were strong, but they could not withstand the concentrated assault. One by one, the shields failed. Then the hull began to break apart. Inside the flagship, Fleet Commander watched his fleet dying around him. His 4 hands gripped the arms of his command chair as explosions shook the ship. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be defeated. How were they doing this? "Commander, we must evacuate," one of his officers pleaded. Shook his head. "I will not run from primitives." Those were his last words. A cascade torpedo struck the bridge directly, and everyone around him vanished in fire and light. With their commander dead and their communications jammed by the nebula, the fleet fell into chaos. Ships collided with each other as captains panicked. Some tried to surrender but could not communicate their intention. Others fought to the last, dying one by one as human ships picked them off. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was finally over, Porter stood on his bridge and looked at the damage reports. 19 human ships destroyed. Another 12 badly damaged. Over 2,000 human crew members dead. The cost was terrible. Porter felt the weight of every single death. But the reinforcement fleet was gone. All 118 ships, destroyed or disabled or fled into the nebula, never to be seen again. "We won," Santos said quietly. She sounded like she could not believe it. Porter nodded slowly. "We won this battle, but the war is not over yet." He straightened his shoulders. "Send a message to Admiral Cole, tell her the reinforcements will not be coming, and tell her to begin preparations for the next phase." Santos looked at him with wide eyes. "The next phase, sir." Porter turned to face her. His eyes burned with determination. "We are going home, Lieutenant. We are going to take back Earth." Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like wildfire. Ambassador made sure every species knew what had happened. The great conquerors had been defeated by the humans they had tried to destroy. The message was clear. They were not invincible. On a dozen different worlds, leaders began to reconsider their positions. The species that had recruited started sending more than just supplies. Ships began to gather. Volunteers stepped forward. What had started as a human resistance was becoming something larger. Even the Galactic Assembly took notice. The elder races who had abandoned humanity now watched with growing concern. If they could be beaten by humans, perhaps it was time to reconsider who the real threat was. And on occupied Earth, Sergeant Lucy received word of the victory. She gathered her fighters in their underground bunker and told them the news. For the first time in 9 months, she saw hope in their eyes. "They are coming back for us," she told them. "Our fleet is coming back, and when they do, we will rise up and meet them. We will take back our cities, we will take back our homes, we will take back our world." The fighters cheered. Outside, above them, the still controlled the skis, but their grip was weakening, and Commander Daniel Porter stood on the bridge of the horizon and watched Earth grow larger on the planet looked the same as he remembered. Blue oceans, green and brown continents, white clouds swirling in the atmosphere. From this distance, you could not see the scars of occupation. You could not see the ruined cities and the mass graves. But that was about to change. Behind the horizon, the largest fleet ever assembled for this war waited for his orders. 60 human warships, repaired and reinforced over the past 3 months. And beside them, something even more remarkable, ships from a dozen other species. Small cruisers from the Republic, fast frigates from the Collective, even a massive battleship from the Empire. Ambassador Diana had done her job well. Humanity was no longer fighting alone. "All ships report ready, Commander," Lieutenant Maria Santos announced. "Coalition forces are in position. Ground teams are standing by." Porter took a deep breath. This was it. Everything they had fought for over the past year came down to this moment. "Open a channel to all ships," he ordered. When the channel was open, he spoke. "Today we take back our home. 1 year ago they came to our world and tried to destroy us. They killed billions of our people. They burned our cities. They thought they had won. They were wrong." He paused, letting his words sink in. Across the fleet, humans and aliens alike listened. "We survived. We fought back. We proved that they could be beaten. And now we have returned, not as refugees, not as survivors. We have returned as liberators." He straightened his shoulders. "All ships begin the attack." The coalition fleet surged forward. Above Earth, the blockade fleet scrambled to respond. They had received no warning. The destruction of their reinforcements had left them weak and isolated. They were still dangerous, but they were no longer invincible. Captain Henry Brooks led his fighter squadron toward the heart of the enemy formation. All fighters follow my lead. Target the command ship first. Cut off the head and the body will fall. His squadron dove into the fleet like arrows. The enemy tried to track them, but they were too fast, too unpredictable. Brooks felt the familiar cold focus settle over him. He had lost count of how many he had killed. Today he would add more to the number. But something was different today. For the first time since the invasion, he felt something other than cold rage. He felt hope. He felt the possibility of a future beyond war and death and revenge. He pushed the feeling aside. There would be time for hope later. Right now, there was a battle to win. The command ship loomed before him. It was a massive vessel covered in weapon platforms and shield generators. Brooks targeted the main shield array and released his payload. The Cascade torpedoes struck true. "Shield array destroyed," he reported. "All ships fire at will." A dozen coalition ships concentrated their fire on the exposed command ship. Without its shields, the great vessel was helpless. It broke apart under the assault, its crew dying by the thousands. With the command ship gone, the blockade began to crumble. Some ships tried to fight to the death. Others attempted to flee. None escaped. The coalition fleet hunted them down one by one. On the surface of Earth, Sergeant Lucy watched the flashes of light in the sky. She knew what those lights meant. The liberation had begun. "All teams, this is," she said into her communicator. "The fleet is here. Begin Operation Dawn." Across the planet, resistance fighters rose up. In New York and London, in Tokyo and Sydney, in every occupied city, humans attacked their captors. They used weapons stolen from dead soldiers. They used bombs made from household chemicals. They used their bare hands when nothing else was available. The ground forces were caught between the assault from space and the uprising from below. Their communication systems were jammed. Their supply lines were cut. Their morale, already damaged by months of resistance, collapsed completely. Led her team through the streets of Denver. They moved from building to building, clearing out soldiers and freeing imprisoned civilians. Every face they liberated showed the same expression: disbelief turning to joy, despair turning to hope. "Is it really over?" an old woman asked, tears streaming down her face. Took her hand gently. "It will be soon, I promise." In orbit, Commander Porter watched the battle approaching its end. The blockade was shattered. Coalition ships now controlled the space around Earth. Landing craft were descending toward the surface, carrying soldiers and supplies to support the ground uprising. But there was one more task to complete. "Commander," Santos said, "we are receiving a transmission from the command center on the surface. They wish to discuss terms of surrender." Porter smiled grimly. "Put them through." The screen flickered and an officer appeared. He was clearly terrified, his four arms trembling as he spoke. "Human commander, we are prepared to surrender. We ask only for mercy for our soldiers." Porter considered the request. Part of him wanted to refuse. Part of him wanted revenge for everything they had done. But he knew that revenge would only lead to more suffering. Humanity had to be better than that. "Your surrender is accepted," he said. "Your soldiers will be treated as prisoners of war according to human custom. They will not be harmed if they lay down their weapons peacefully." The officer slumped with relief. "Thank you, Commander, thank you." Porter ended the transmission and turned to his crew. "It is done. Earth is free." The bridge erupted in cheers. Crew members hugged each other. Some wept with joy. Santos approached Porter with tears in her eyes. "We did it, sir. We actually did it." Porter nodded. He felt the weight of the past year lift slightly from his shoulders. But he also felt the weight of everyone they had lost, every friend, every family member, every stranger who had died so that this moment could happen. "We did it," he agreed quietly. "Now the real work begins." 3 days later, Commander Porter stood on a platform in the ruins of New York City. Around him, thousands of people had gathered. Humans and aliens from the coalition, soldiers and civilians, the survivors of the greatest tragedy in human history. Admiral Cole stood beside him. Ambassador Diana, Sergeant Lucy, Dr. Samuel Wright, Captain Henry Brooks, all the people who had helped make this victory possible. Cole stepped forward to address the crowd. "1 year ago, we faced extinction. Our world was taken from us. Our people were slaughtered. Our allies abandoned us. By every measure that matters, we should not be standing here today. She paused and looked out at the faces before her. But we are standing here because we refused to give up, because we refused to accept that our story was over, because we fought back with everything we had, and we found allies who believed in us even when the rest of the galaxy did not. She gestured to Porter. Commander Porter will say the rest. Porter stepped forward. He was not comfortable with speeches. He was a soldier, not a politician. But some things needed to be said. We did not win this war because we were stronger than he said. We did not win because we had better technology or more ships. We won because we never stopped fighting. We won because every time they knocked us down, we got back up again. He looked at the crowd, at the tired faces and the hopeful eyes. That is what it means to be human. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not accept defeat. Against all odds, we seized the day, and we will keep seizing it every day for as long as we exist. The crowd cheered. Above them, coalition ships patrolled the sky. Around them, the work of rebuilding had already begun. There would be hard years ahead. The scars of the occupation would take generations to heal. But humanity had survived. They had proven themselves to the galaxy, and they would never be underestimated again. On the edge of the crowd, Captain Brooks stood alone. He was looking at the sky, thinking about everyone he had lost, his family, his friends, the person he used to be. A hand touched his shoulder. He turned to find Ambassador standing beside him. "What happens now?" he asked. Smiled softly. "Now we live, we rebuild, we remember those we lost, but we do not let grief consume us." She looked at him with understanding eyes. "That is the hardest battle of all, but I think you are strong enough to win it." Brooks nodded slowly. For the first time in a year, he felt something warm in his chest, not just hope, something more, a reason to keep going beyond revenge. He looked back at the sky. Somewhere up there, the stars waited. New adventures, new challenges, new chances to prove what humanity could do. Against all odds, they had seized the day. And tomorrow, they would seize the next one too. And very soon, it would break completely. The day of liberation was coming. After the subordinate left, stood by the window of his ship and looked out at the stars. He had underestimated these humans. That was a mistake he would not make again. When the reinforcements arrived, he would crush the human resistance completely. He would hunt down every last survivor and destroy them. But deep in his mind, a small voice whispered a warning. A species that refused to surrender even in the face of total defeat. A species that fought harder when pushed to the edge. Perhaps, the voice suggested, such a species should not be underestimated. Ignored the voice. He was a conqueror. Humans were simply another enemy to be destroyed. He would soon learn how wrong he was. Porter listened carefully, his mind already working on possibilities. "It will not be easy," he said finally. "We have less than 50 ships against an entire reinforcement fleet." Cole nodded. "I know, but what choice do we have? If that fleet reaches Earth, they will finish what they started. We have to try." Porter straightened his shoulders. "Then we will try, and we will succeed, because failure is not something humanity knows how to accept." He turned and walked out of the office. There was much work to do, battles to plan, pilots to train, ships to prepare. But for the first time in 3 months, Porter felt something he had almost forgotten. He felt hope. They had been broken, but they were not finished. Not yet, not ever. "Admiral," Porter said, stepping forward, "what are your orders?" Cole smiled grimly. "For now, we hide, we gather our strength, we find other survivors, and we start planning, because one day we are going back to Earth, and when we do, we'll learn why humanity has survived for so long." Outside the window, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere out there, Earth was burning. But here, in this small room on this forgotten moon, the first spark of resistance was being lit.